The movie takes place in ancient Greece in 200 BCE, where an old Spartan man looks at a baby that looks like Shrek. The storyteller says that if any flaws are found, the baby is turned away. Since the first baby is ugly and green, it is thrown into the pile of dead bodies and bones below. The second baby turns out to be Vietnamese, and the narrator says that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie will take him in. The third and final child is accepted as a Spartan because he already has a beard and is strong. Then, people call him Leonidas. Leonidas is taught to be a hero in a harsh way from a young age, and he fights with his grandmother. Leonidas is also abused and told not to show pain as he grows up. One day, he is thrown out into the wild with almost nothing to wear and told to live through the hard winter on his own. There, a monster with red eyes follows him, which turns out to be a big penguin. The penguin starts to hurt Leonidas right away by jumping on him and slamming his body into the ground. But our brave main character is able to beat the penguin by putting it in a tight spot. Then, he finds a penguin spear in an unrelated glass box and uses it to kill the beast. After winter is over, Leonidas goes back to Sparta to be sworn in as king while wearing a hat made of penguin skin. When everyone sees that he killed the dangerous beast, they all bow down to him. But Leonidas seems to be in love with Margot, a beautiful girl in the crowd. She dances in a sexual way while sucking on a lollipop and constantly smiling. This is enough to make Leonidas like her, so he asks her to marry him right away. Margot gives him the password to her armored chastity belt, which makes him very happy. The movie then goes back in time a few years and shows that Leonidas is now the king of Sparta. At the moment, he is teaching his son by hitting him while Margot looks from the sides. Leonidas throws his son around and headbutts him in a violent way to show him that he needs to be able to take hard hits from his enemies. Margot suggests that he do the pile driver on his son, so Leonidas drives his son's head onto the floor. Soon after that, Leonidas's best friend, the captain, shows up and tells him that the messenger from Persia has come to talk to him. So, Leonidas stops training with his son and goes to meet the messenger. He then gives his friend a French kiss and says that in Sparta, men kiss women and shake hands with women. The two of them then walk together holding hands. As they talk, the messenger of Persia tells Leonidas that the great Persian king Xerxes has used his huge army to take over the world. Now, he wants his last victory to be over Sparta. When Leonidas hears this, he gets angry and takes the messenger and his helpers to the pit of death, but even there, the Persians tell the Spartans that if they want to stop the war, they need to give up right away. The message also tells them that King Xerxes of Persia wants the Spartans to build his towers, use the women as maids, and put the children to work making shoes in workshops. Traitor O, a leader from Sparta, wants to give up, but Leonidas will not give up. Then, he kicks the messenger and his helpers into the pit of death, which formally starts the war with the Persians. After what happened, many famous people, like Britney Spears, Kevin Federline, Sanjaya Malakar, and Ryan Seacrest, show up in front of the pit of death, and Leonidas kicks them all down. Also, all of the American Idol judges, including Simon Cowell, Randy Jackson, and Paula Abdul, show up out of nowhere. They made fun of the king of Sparta by saying that his kicks were very bad. Leonidas is very angry, so he pushes them down the pit with him. After that, the captain tells Leonidas that he should talk to the prophets before facing the Persians. It turns out that the prophets help the king of Sparta make decisions. So, Leonidas goes to see them that night with a bunch of cosmetics as payment for their help. But the spirits tell him that he should talk to the oracle instead. The oracle is supposed to be picked from the most beautiful women, but she is actually the famous Ugly Betty. The oracle of Sparta then tells Leonidas that if he goes to war with Persia and Xerxes, he will die. Even though the warnings were clear, Leonidas still goes to war. When he can't sleep at night because of all the weight on his shoulders, Margot tells him he can do anything he wants with her. Leonidas likes the idea, but instead of trying to make her happy, he starts to use her as a weight to work out with. The next day, Leonidas is happy to go meet his army, which has been put together by the captain. But his face changes quickly when he finds out that only 13 troops meet his strict standards. Sonio, the only child of the captain, is also there. Even though the chances are against the Spartans, Leonidas still wants to go ahead with the plan. So, after saying goodbye to his family, he went to Thermopylae with the captain and the other soldiers. Traitor O, a Spartan official, is shown to be a traitor when he sends Xerxes an email telling him everything. When the Spartans get to the hot gates of Thermopylae, they take a break to drink their favorite drink, Gatorade, to quench their thirst. Leonidas and the captain suddenly run into a misshapen Paris Hilton, who tells them about a secret goat path above the hot gates. It looks like Xerxes wants to use it to get around the Spartans. She then asks to become a Spartan soldier, but Leonidas says no right away when he sees her holding a spear the wrong way. Then, Leonidas and his 13 men face off against the leader of the Persian army and his troops. One of the Spartans, Delios, attacks the Persians out of nowhere, but he fails terribly when he jumps over them and crashes into a nearby hill. This makes the two sides fight a fierce war, but not in the way you might think. They actually play a dance-off game, which the Spartans win with their flashy moves. As punishment for losing, they push the Persians off a cliff and into the water. With this, our heroes are able to keep the first wave of enemies from getting into Thermopylae. In the meantime, a supporter from Sparta goes to see Margot while she is getting a massage. He tells her that Leonidas can't beat the Persians with only 13 soldiers. So, he wants Margot to persuade the council to get more soldiers. Traitoro, a politician from Sparta who is also a member of the council, is the only thing that can stop them. But luckily, Margot is able to get him to like her by using her talents. Back in Thermopylae, the Persian king Xerxes goes to see Leonidas and try to get him to give up Sparta. Then, they play Deal or No Deal, where Xerxes tries to pay him with a trip to the Palms Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. Leonidas hesitates for a while, but in the end, he turns down the offer, which disappoints Xerxes. Because of this, the two groups of troops have a Yo Mama fight, which the Spartans win. But sadly, during the fight, one of the Persians hits Delios in the face and pulls out both of his eyes. The movie then cuts to Xerxes' court, where a misshapen Paris Hilton is looking for the king. It turns out that she is there to betray the Spartans, so she tells Xerxes about the hidden way for goats above the hot gates. In exchange, she wants a pricey Chanel bag and for her misshapen back hump to be taken away. The king agrees right away and gives her the purse. But when Xerxes tries to get rid of the misshapen hump, the large amount of mucus inside knocks him off his feet. The next day, Sonio finds out that the Persians have found out about the secret tunnel while Leonidas is eating ice cream. He tells him as quickly as he can. Leonidas then goes up to Delios, a fellow soldier who had been blinded in the first attack. He tells Delios to go back to Sparta and tell the people there how bravely the Spartans fought in the war. He also tells him to give his necklace back to Margot. After that, King Xerxes and his Persian troops show up at Thermopylae and tell Leonidas it's his last chance to give up. But when he says no, Xerxes gets angry and calls 1,000,000 more Persians to join his army. In the meantime, Margot finally faces the local counselors and dances for them as a short performance. When she gets serious and asks them to send more troops to Thermopylae, the old men throw bills at her and cheer her on. Traitoro, on the other hand, betrays Margot and tells the Spartans that they should instead give up to Xerxes. Margot is so angry that she lets out a poisonous rage that turns her into Spider-Man and gives Traitoro the powers of Sandman. Traitoro and Margot fight, and in the end, Margot beats Traitoro by sucking him up with a hoover. After he was defeated, his phone showed the counselors that he had betrayed the Spartans. So, they decide to send Leonidas more troops to help him in fight. The war between the two forces starts back at Thermopylae. In the middle of the fight, the Persians reveal that their secret weapon is the Ghost Rider, but Sonio easily beats him with a fire extinguisher. They also show the famous wrestler Rocky, who kills Sonio with a single blow to the head. The captain is furious, and to get revenge for his son, he kills Rocky by giving him a dangerous dose of Botox. He then starts to celebrate by lifting Rocky's boxing title belt, but Xerxes kills him with a spear through the heart right at that moment. When Leonidas saw this, he got very angry and started to chase after Xerxes. As he takes someone else's car and starts dancing, the scene looks like a chase from Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. After a while, Leonidas gets out of the car and finds a club, which he uses to kill a Persian man by beating him to death. Then, out of nowhere, he grabs 2 assault weapons and starts shooting at some enemy soldiers. Xerxes runs for his life, but he trips and falls because he can't support his own weight. The Persian king then finds a cube-shaped generator in the sand next to him and picks it up. He changes into a huge human robot all of a sudden and calls himself Xerxestran. The Spartans shrink in fear as Xerxestran plays a YouTube movie on his chest screen to show off his power. After that, he attacks the Spartans in an attempt to end the war for good. But when he takes a step forward, he trips over his extension cord and falls down. Xerxes has a terrible death, but he also kills all the Spartans who are still alive, including Leonidas. In the meantime, Delios finally gets to Sparta and gives Queen Margot the necklace. When she finds out that her husband died in the war, she is very sad. The movie jumps ahead 1 year, to a time when Delios is blind and leading a bigger group of Spartans against the Persians. But because he is blind, he can't tell where he is and ends up taking his army to a totally different place. In the last few minutes of the movie, the Spartans end up in Malibu, California, where they attack famous actress Lindsay Lohan as she is leaving a rehab center.